Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. About a month ago I put together this quilt top using some very old applique quilt blocks, and I also drafted up a pattern so that if you're interested, it's in my Etsy shop and you can get the designs for this very old applique quilt. And before I quilted it, I had to go back and remove all of the basting stitches. The quilter who put this quilt together hand appliqued these shapes onto the background fabric. And before she did that, she turned under all of the edges of her applique and she went around and added a little basting stitch to keep those edges in before she appliqued it on. So I had to go through and take out all those big stitches before I quilted it. I didn't think I had a backing big enough for this beautiful quilt, and I thought I might have to go purchase some fabric, but I was at the thrift store and I guess I did purchase some fabric there. This is a cotton sheet. It's a queen size sheet, a fitted sheet that was in really good condition, and I got it for under $2. It's beautiful fabric, and I think it's going to go really nicely with this quilt. It looked like it was almost brand new, so I was thankful that I found this just in the nick of time. So before I did anything else, I cut along the seams of the fitted sheet and I cut off all of the elastic that surrounded the bottom. I cut my batting about 2 inches larger than my quilt all around, and then I began towards the middle of the quilt, not quite the center. I start on one side and I kind of roll it up to the edge of the table, and then I smoothed the batting down. I sprayed that 505 down, and then I smoothed the quilt on top of the batting. I turned the quilt top upside down, and then I did the same thing with the backing, just sprayed a little bit of the 505 and smoothed the backing fabric on top of the batting. The quilting design that I decided to use on this quilt is an all-over design, sort of a curved line, and then every now and again I almost make a circle and then I curve it around, and I would call it maybe a hook. There is a curve and then a hook, and then I kind of go back out. I hope you can see what I'm doing here, and then I just move all around the quilt using that same design. And when I'm not sure if my little circle will fit. I just do a curved line, and there's a better picture of what that quilting design looks like. When it was all quilted, I trimmed away the excess batting and backing, and then I cut my binding strips 2.5 inches wide, the width of the fabric. I'm making that long piece of binding by putting the ends together, and as you can see, the selvages are hanging off just a little bit so that I won't have those in my binding. So I kind of just put the right sides together with the selvages hanging over the edge, and then I sew from one corner to the other corner, and after I have all of the ends sewn together, I'll trim the triangles off, and then I'll press my binding in half, and I'll be attaching it this time to the front of the quilt. I wasn't able to film the details of putting this binding on, but if you've been here any length of time, you'll know that I do have a few videos, quite a few probably, that show how I put the binding on. Here is after I put the binding on. I leave 2 tails, and one I cut off the edge right next to a fold, and then I use that leftover piece there, which is 2.5 inches, and I put it next to the fold, and then I cut off the excess, and I'll be putting these 2 ends together just like I joined those long pieces of binding when I was making that long binding piece. So I put the right sides together at an angle in the same way, and I'll sew from corner to corner, and then I always double check to make sure that it fits on the quilt before I finish sewing the binding on. getting the binding all sewn on the front, I'm going to roll it to the back. And for this quilt, I'm going to go around with a needle and thread, and I'm going to hand stitch that binding onto the back. And I think I'm going to save that for this evening when I like to do quiet work. This is such a pretty quilt, and I'm really happy to have it completed and so that it can be enjoyed. This is such a beautiful quilt pattern, and again, the pattern is in my Etsy shop if you're interested in getting the applique design and the quilt design for this beautiful quilt. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.